Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Philly Fan Radio. I'm John Myer along with Dan Palmieri. And Dan, I'm not upset. I'm disappointed, but I'm not upset. I feel like a parent scolding her kid and trying to play it cool. I'm not upset at you. I am disappointed. Does that hurt worse, or is it even better?
There's a numbing agent to that.
Yeah, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. I feel the same way. I mean, watching that was like, I watched the entire game and I almost felt like I needed to take a shower afterwards. It was kind of dirty. It was just, I mean, oh my God, the depth on our team is just bad in certain areas, and we'll go into it, but holy crap.
I guess that's a good point, right? Dan, so think about that. That's a good point. We just identified that we have horrible dead, and that Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, and I hate to say it, Dory Jackson, even with his 8 yards off, need to be wrapped in bubble wrap and protected at all costs. And I guess thank God they weren't playing, because we know our second our backups just completely are horrible.
Yeah, exactly. It's just crazy. And I guess it solidifies the aspect of resting your starters. I guess he looks like a genius after that performance. You don't want to see that performance, but, he looks good after that one. So it's just...
Well,
yeah.
I still maintain that they shouldn't have rested their starters. At least played them one quarter. And I get it. Okay, they got to play 17 games, 17 out of 18 weeks. They had the bye, haven't had it in a while. And Nick Sirianni's whole aspect of the thing was, well, in the year that we went to the Super Bowl, I rested. And the year that, we went into the playoffs thing, I rested the next one, and we didn't, blah, 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 the whole aspect of it. But they had Devontae Smith out there going for his 1,000 yards. How about we get out there and go for our number 2 seed? 2 home games versus 1. And the Eagles have never won a playoff game on the road. So, you got to look at this, that you just gave up the number 2 seed. Now, you couldn't predict that going in it, that the Lions would actually upset the Bears, but a chance is a chance.
Yeah, and that's what he said, is that he can't control what would happen and all this other stuff. But the way that I look at it is there's certain eye test things that have to be judged. It can't just be an analytical, I'm going to do it based off prior years type of deal. Prior years were different. Throw those away. Did the offense, and I'm just going to focus on the offense now because the defense has been doing well, but did the offense show enough in previous weeks, a consistency aspect in which you would say, okay, we have momentum going into the postseason? We know what we want to do.
Well, if you took the Raiders game, right, the game afterwards against the Commanders, if you took those 2 games, you would have answered that question, yes, but then they pretty much shit the bed against the Bills, even though they won.
Yeah, and that's where we get at. You're not going to play the Commanders. You're not going to play the Raiders in the postseason. You're going to play legitimate teams. And think about it, against legitimate defenses this year, I honestly can't think of a game that stood out to me. When you hear the offense, I don't want to say exploded, but looked good, okay? Against the Giants, they're dreadful. First half against Dallas dreadful. You played well against the Raiders. You played well against the Commanders. Those teams suck. And then you go to the actual hard teams on your schedule, and you did nothing. I go back to this. The offense does not deserve to have a week off. I understand you're playing because you don't want injuries. You're not playing because you don't want injuries. But the simple fact is, you have not shown anything on offense. So that should have been a game where you played the first half or whatever, and you should have tried things. You should have tried to get some momentum going into the postseason, because of the simple fact that when we go into the postseason, are we going to try to be a running team? Are we going to try to be a passing team? We're
still trying to identify ourselves.
Yeah, well, is there one thing on offense that we as fans or them as an organization can sit back and say, this is the type of team we are. This is what we do well. I can't think of one goddamn thing they do well on offense. Seriously. They can't run block. They can pass block, but their route concepts are so elementary that no receiver's getting open. So you could pass block all you want, but eventually the pocket's going to collapse and you're going to see Jalen have to throw it out of bounds because of the fact that no one could get open. So what do we do well? I mean, we're going against top-tier talent now. We're going against offenses and defenses that can actually scheme and have good coaches. You know, this BS of, we're going to score 13 points and we're going to win. That's not going to happen in the postseason. And they don't deserve a bye. And I'm not even mad. Let me go back. I'm not even mad that they didn't get the second seed. I'm not, okay? Because I think that this team can go on the road and beat a Chicago. And that's where I was at with that. But on the other hand, I'm mad that I didn't get to see the starters build some kind of thing, some kind of rapport. Because when they asked the players afterwards, were you upset that you didn't play at all to get a rhythm? They all said the same thing. No, this team is battle tested. We know what we're going to do in the postseason, and we have confidence that we're going to get it right, I think was Devontae's, thing. But what in the world have you shown on offense that tells the fans and tells other teams that you're going to get it right?
There has been no consistency all year long, and we've been very concerned about that. And while you have, let's just say, 1.5 good games, we say the Giants was a good game, and then you play the Raiders and the Commanders, and that was your other half of a good game. And not just the half, it was semi-complete all around on for that one. But I don't feel that having this week off without a significant momentum, hell, I would have loved one solid series, them to go down, get a touchdown, hammer it out. Now, we're going to talk about Tanner McKee. We'll talk about, the backups in there and some of the starters did play because of, obviously, it's a numbers game. I think the other thing that this game really identified is that Kevin Patullo still sucks as an OC. I mean, his play calling was horrible. I don't know. Listen, I understand, everybody was calling for Tanner McKee to come in over Jalen Hurts. Well, not everybody, but a number of you were. If you look at that and you can say, well, Tanner McKee sucked in this game, it's still the OC and the play calling, plus he's thrown to some craps. Now, I don't agree that Jalen should be benched for Tanner McKee at all. He's a solid backup when he's playing with the top talent. Now, he's playing with, practice guys, names you didn't even hear of. And when they call it out, you'll be like, who's that? So don't get me wrong. This game had a lot of flaws in it. There were some good runs down the line, some piss poor decisions by Tanner. I mean, when you're like 2nd and 1, 3rd and 1, and you're right there on the line and you just still decide to throw it when you could have stepped over and got the first down, or the end zone where you're throwing into coverage where it got picked off when there's a guy wide open into the back. Yes, there are some poor decisions by Tanner, but there was no offensive line either. He always had to get rid of the ball, period, for it. And it still points out that Kevin Patullo sucks, and I'm very concerned about going into next year.
But is it a poor decision by Tanner, or is it an asinine decision by your OC and your head coach on a 2nd and 1 in which the first down got you 9 yards on a Tank Bigsby run, on a 2nd and 1, pass the ball, on a 3rd and 1, pass the ball?
I agree. There were so many consistent. Dan, I am right there with you. So many. What the freak were we passing it when Tank was running through that shit and get it? Why were we not throwing him in there again?
Yeah, why are we trying to throw the ball 40 times with Tanner McKee, or I don't know how many times he threw it, but whatever. We threw.
It was about 40.
Yeah, we threw more than we ran the ball. And
those were the attempts, by the way. Those were not the completions.
Well, yeah, I mean, Tanner didn't have a good game, but he was also not put in a position to succeed. And it's just, we all saw it on the tape. They did a good job actually doing the teleprompter, showing the routes and how nobody was getting open. You're seeing base route concepts. You're seeing fly routes. You're seeing post routes. You're seeing a goddamn hitch route. And you're not seeing any mesh concepts. You're not seeing any natural picks, which everybody runs. And I saw a great stat. It was a good stat today. Jalen Hurts is 32 of 38 passing the ball on mesh concept routes. Okay? Think about that. We've only ran 38 mesh concepts in which he's thrown the ball. How is that possible? I just don't get it. And that goes back to OC. That goes back to there's no creativity. There's no analysis. There's no plan. It's just you go up there and say, our players are better than your players and we're going to win. And I'm sorry, in the NFL, that will only get you so far. The other team gets paid too, and they will stop you. We've seen it. And if it wasn't for Vic Fangio, we would probably be a 500 or sub 500 team. And it's just, you gotta play to your people's strengths, and you gotta come up with something creative. And I don't know, it goes on to a further conversation of which, will we see change in the offseason?
Oh, first of all, that's definitely good. Dan, you and I got to talk about that because we're going to talk about predictions here in the playoffs. Who's going to win? Who's going home early in the first round? What's going to happen? Dan, let's do a quick recap of our predictions. By the way, I think the only thing kind of close was you with 24-13. But you were predicting the Eagles versus the Commanders, Washington, Redskins, whatever, and no number 2 seed. So hats off to Dan for predicting it reverse, but no number 2.
Yay.
And I predicted 21-10 and the number 2. But we did these predictions with the idea that the starters would be playing and we'd be going for number 2. So don't worry about that.
Well, I have to say one thing, though.
Yeah.
If I made this prediction, even if I made the prediction and they said the starters weren't playing, I would have said our second string would have won the game. I think I would have said that our second string would beat the first string of the Redskins.
Yeah, but here's the problem, right? Going into that, I'm not sure. I mean, okay, if you're basing it off of pure talent at that time, yes. But you still have the same OC making the same dumbass play calling left and right, and we're throwing it when we could run 1 yard or 2 yards. And we know the tush push does not work with Tanner because it's just not, he's not benching 600 to get in there. But it was just horrible. To be honest with you, I don't think, if you said no starters, I might have said loss and no seed, no number 2. Off of pure talent that we had, if I saw how our Ringo and Bennett played, I probably would have just curled up. It was, yeah, so.
Yeah, okay. I'll rant about that later.
Yeah. Actually, so the biggest thing, so the outcomes of this game was KP still sucks, okay, and our defense, thank goodness, just please stay healthy throughout the entire postseason. We can't pull in anybody, the backups. I don't even know why Ringo's in there for anything. Okay, so he's on, what is he on, like punt returns?
Yeah, he's a gunner.
And so he's fast to go to the punt return. Great, happy, okay. Why don't you just put him on the practice squad sometimes? Or, I wouldn't trust him to do anything else, like hold the ball or, not even look at it the other way. The other thing is, like, if you look at it, now, Adoree Jackson, you and I have been very skeptical of him. He always plays 8 yards off. But considering who his backups are, I'm happy for him.
I'm right there too. I've been I've been on this show saying that Jacorian Bennett should be the starter. And after watching this game, Jacorian Bennett is wasting a roster spot. So, I mean,
And ball boy.
oh my God, he's not even able to do that. I mean, it was embarrassing. It seriously was embarrassing to watch because every deep throw, Ringo and or Jacorian Bennett, it's like they weren't taught to turn around and look for the ball. They were basically just molesting the people down the field, and at the point of the catch, it's just like they're just like looking at Terry McLaurin and not looking at the ball and just saying, "I'm going to push you aside and hope that there's no flag." It was embarrassing.
Oh, they were horrible.
It was embarrassing.
They were literally tackling the receivers so they didn't get it, but they were always doing it down at the 1 yard line or in the end zone. Always. It was, you know what? I don't understand that. Oh, you want to know why? Because they suck. Because they're not really good. And it was funny. Ringo went on to his Instagram and posts, "I love you all too." Nobody likes you, man. I'm sorry. I don't even understand how you're in the NFL. Hasn't anybody ever told you how to cover somebody? I'm glad that obviously they tested out in the preseason, and I think it was like game 2 to 3 before they realized that he just needs to be a gunner and kick him out. It was the most horrible thing. Dan, here's a question for you. Since we're talking about Ringo and Bennett, who would you rate worse, Mills or them?
Based on just last week's performance, I would say that Jalen Mills is a Pro Bowler.
You guys got to understand Dan's background. He hated the Green Goblin. He did not like
God.
Mills. Mills had 1 or 2 good plays, maybe the entire, if I say game, that might be a little overrated, maybe the season. And then he would be like, yeah. And Dan would be like, okay, so he did something good. But he really did not like Mills. And to have him give him a Pro Bowl certificate, it's saying a lot.
Well, I coined him Double Move Mills because the guy would get beat. They'd just run a double move, and he would either get an illegal contact or be so out of position that he would tug on the guy's jersey and then go like this. No.
Yeah.
It was just
or hold his hands up. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It gave me PTSD looking back to that. It was horrible. I mean, it's elementary stuff. And Ringo, I don't know what the hell he was thinking with the whole quarterback scramble where he turned around and decided to play a wide receiver who actually wasn't in the area. So he was basically chasing a ghost back there. Maybe saw a butterfly or something.
Bailed. He could have taken out Johnson, and
he would have missed the tackle. Let's get that out of the way.
Wow.
He would have missed the tackle. So there's no way in hell.
Okay, wait a second. He would have made the right decision, but he would have had to go back to tackling 101.
The 39-year-old Josh Johnson would have juked him out of his shoes, and then that would have been the end of that. So I don't care.
Little broken ankles.
Yeah, exactly. And, he would have needed the cart because he would have injured his pride. But it was horrendous watching those two. And, it's a shame because we did see some individual decent performances. I thought that Trotter Jr. played pretty well. He showed that maybe he's not an NFL starter, but he was around the ball. He looked pretty damn good out there. Our safeties, they were iffy. But, I mean, we saw some rotation on the defensive line with guys that may have gotten a little less playing time. But we saw, people like Jordan Davis was out there. And like you said, it's kind of a numbers game, I guess. You only have so many players on a position to suit up. So, you saw people like Brandon Graham. It's just that.
Well, they had some of the healthier ones, the younger guys in there, or the guys who haven't played all season. So when you talk about Brandon Graham, he hasn't played all season. So this is probably really good for him to stay in there and, get the reps. Even though he's an older guy, he still had a lot of reserve in him. You had Jahad Campbell, Jalix Hunt was into it. Unfortunately, Sidney Brown was getting a lot of reps because you were resting out some more of the starters into it. But and we know all how well Sidney Brown has played over the years.
Yeah. He made some tackles, but it was never his tackle. He whiffed on a lot of tackles, but it was always his coverage. He's dreadful at covering. His ball instincts are non-existent. He's a good guy. I mean, I believe we met him at the bike thing, but he's a great guy, but when it comes to actually playing the safety position, I don't think he's that good. But again, he's not starting, so thank God for that. But at the same time, our secondary was just an embarrassment in this game. And it just, you're playing the what-if game when it comes to resting your starters versus, playing your starters. There could be a severe injury, but it's football. There's always a fear to have a severe injury. Why can't you just play the guys for a half and then take them out? Because I guarantee if the starters played for a half, we would have won that game. We would have won it by halftime because that's how bad the Commanders looked. That's how bad the Commanders are. It's just, it was, oh, God. Yeah, it was bad.
There was a question presented to Nick during his press conference, and it was really talking about, well, Nick, after you started seeing that you're losing, was there ever a thought to put into the starters? Now, I'm going to give you my thought, whether you like it or not or agree with me. My answer to you would have been no. And here's the thing. And the reason I'm saying no, don't put in the starters, is because they might have warmed up, but they knew they weren't starting, so they weren't putting their heart into it. Then halfway through, they come into the game and play a series. Yeah, there was a huge potential for injury. The person that you should have replaced was KP because of his play calling and the stupidest stuff. That's where you should have made a decision like, yo, I got this. Whether, Nick, you can call plays or not, I'm sure they're probably like 10% better than KP.
Can't be worse.
I would have never put – yeah, well, are you sure?
Well, yeah.
Dan, what are your thoughts? Would you have thought about putting in the starters, or would you have just, it is what it is at this time?
I would bring in the starters cold for the same reason that you have, is I don't believe you bring in players cold like that unless it's necessary. And to say that it was necessary, I don't think it was, only because I don't want to risk the injury. Now, I said play starters from the beginning because you have a preparation there where you're going to start. You're going to play the beginning of the game. You're stretching. You're warming up or whatever. You're prepared to play the game. When you're cold like that, you're coming off the bench, that's when you see ankles, not torn, but ankles twisted, knees give out. You're just, like you said, you might not be giving 100% effort because you didn't prepare yourselves to start. So going in the game cold from the second half or whenever, no, I wouldn't have done it. I would have started them, but I wouldn't have brought them in cold.
Dan, some of the positives. So I don't think we're going to be able to tell resting the starters versus putting them in is going to be a deciding factor until we get into the playoffs here. Right? If they miraculously come out and romp the 49ers, which is happening this Sunday at 4:25, correct, Dan?
Yep.
Okay. So there are 3 games happening on Sunday, one 4:30 or 4:25 and then 8:30 or something like that. And there's 2 on Saturday, 4:30 and 8:30. Now, I don't think we're going to be able to decide resting the starters unless they come out and totally blow out the 49ers. The positive that I'm going to put a little bit of a spin on this is, one, you rested Lane Dickerson. We all know how horrible. I think that might be a little too aggressive. We know he hasn't played his best. Okay, horrible is probably the word for it. He has not played really well due to his off-season surgery, and he didn't give himself enough time to heal. Either that or his skills are very diminishing. Whatever it is, he's had some rest. Lane Johnson has been out, 3 weeks now? 4 weeks,
weeks,
something like
think,
that. So
yeah.
he should be completely healed, all right? There are some other players in there, obviously getting a little bit more rest. I'm not saying that Saquon's not injured or doesn't have some ailments, kind of, but he's not really getting that many yards out of it because of his offensive line, and it's no fault on him at all. So I feel that the positive is that, well, they got the rest. The negative is if they come out and shit the bed against the 49ers, should be some heads rolling.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you the 49ers are coming in banged up, ironically. They played hard against Seattle and they got banged up. They've been banged up all year. If the Eagles come out and they have a subpar performance or whatever against 49ers, my God, I'm gonna have to listen to the media broadcast just because they are going to blow shit up. It's going to be a nightmare. And it's not because the 49ers are a bad team. We're not going to rant at the fact that the 49ers are a bad team and we lost them. We're going to rant at the fact that if we would have played our starters, we would have been playing the Packers, who I think everybody could agree has no part in being in the playoffs with the way they've been performing. So it's going to be a nightmare. I don't see it happening. Let's preface this. I don't see it happening, but they need to come out and they need to show consistency on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, because if they don't, then we're back to where we were before with you rested your starters for what? They're healthy and playing shitty as opposed to being banged up and playing shitty. So what's the difference?
I think when they rested their starters, they should have rested KP too. Like, nah, take the week off, man. Like,
you've done such a nice job.
You know what? You and the fans, come over here. I want you to call some plays or something. I mean, if you look at this, the play calling has been shitty all year. You rested your starters does not change the play calling. Does not change. In fact, just like you said last week, there are no in-game adjustments. I think this game, same deal. We're just running the ball. Sometimes it's just run the ball. And you know what? No matter what, we're going to run the ball. Yeah, you know what? That's where the RPO option, some mesh routes, some wildcat, whatever it is would come in there and trick them up. Defense are not fooled. Dan, we see that how this played out is the number 2 seed. If the Eagles would have got it, they would have won against the Packers. Now, I know you're in favor of the Packers, would have won against them, which the more I think about it, and while I'm not really thinking that the 49ers are much of a threat, I mean, you can say that they put up 30, 40 points against the Bears, but that was more of an offensive game. Both defenses completely sucked. Mm-hmm. The Packers, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think they belong in there. I don't think they're a very strong team to do it. I'm okay either way. I think having a West Coast team come out here and then plays a little bit into favor, but it would have been really freaking nice to have 2 playoff home games.
And I think that's what it comes down to is you're not going to see, I think even the resting starters whole thing, you're not going to see the benefit of it or the risk of it until the second round. So let's play that scenario out is you beat the 49ers and then Chicago beats, who the hell are they playing? They're playing the Packers. So Chicago wins. You are then traveling to Chicago instead of Chicago coming to Philly. If you go in the second round and lose to Chicago, which we've already done this season, that's when it comes into play. That's when the second guessing is going to come out and say, well, if you didn't rest your starters, Chicago in that scenario would have come to Philly, and you are undefeated at home in the playoffs in Philly, so things would have went differently. So I hope we get to see the second round of the playoffs to see if it really made a difference as to them resting or not. But again, we won't see the benefit. We won't see the, I don't think they deserve to rest. I don't. And they showed nothing in the regular season that tells me otherwise.
Dan, let me ask you this question. At what point, and do you think it's even possible, does KP get fired? or let go? Is it we shit the bed in the first round and they say, see ya, or second round, or if they go all the way to the Super Bowl and they do really well, what's to say he goes anywhere? And they just like, yeah, we're just going to ride this as much as we can.
Well, I'll preface my answer by saying it's not going to be Nick Sirianni that fires Kevin Patullo, okay? Because they're friends, because they've been together forever. It's going to be Howie Roseman coming down and saying, our offense, I paid X amount of dollars for it. It is the second highest paid offense in the league. And I gave you the keys to the kingdom to give to Kevin Patullo, and you basically put up, I think they put up 22 points a game and looked absolutely elementary doing it. And sorry, but he's fired. That's the only way it's going to happen.
Yeah, but how does that play out for Jalen, and basically that he's had a new offensive coordinator for the last 10 plus years?
It sucks, but at the same time, I'm looking at it from an aspect of there's no way in hell that this offense could have played any worse this year. Seriously. We won games based on talent. We didn't win them.
Nope.
There's not one single game that we went in there and won that I could look back and say, we won that game because our coaching was so good that we exceeded their coaching. We've been winning on talent, which will only get you so far. It's just not a feasible way of winning. And, okay, so to go back to your question, if we lose in the wild card round, he's got to go. He's gone, okay? Because this is not a first...
I don't think there would be anybody arguing with you. And in fact, I think every Eagles fan will be saying, gone, out of there. And then what are the chances? I mean, is Nick Sirianni potentially in the hot seat?
No, I don't think so. He got a Super Bowl winning coach. He's extremely successful. But I think we've identified that his offensive system, and let's get it straight. Kevin Patullo is running his offensive system. They've been together forever. They are the same offensive system. You know, they come from Indy. They played with Phillip Rivers, you know, in Indy. All this stuff, but their offensive system doesn't work. Okay, well, let me put it this way. It doesn't work for the Philadelphia Eagles. It doesn't work to highlight Jalen Hurts' strengths. Jalen Hurts' strengths were magnified when he had Shane Steichen, which was a run-first offense based on the RPO game. Okay? Then his strengths were magnified as well when he had an experienced play caller come in Kellen Moore, who ran a run-first offense based on, oh my God, the RPO game. Okay? So we need an experienced play caller in there. I don't think Sirianni's on the hot seat. And I think if the Eagles, I hope to God, when the Eagles go past the wild card round, it's going to be an optics thing at that point. And what I mean by that is if we go in the divisional round and we lose, you know, we put up 13 points and the other team put up 16 points or whatever, there's no way in hell you can justify to this fan base or to anybody that Kevin Patullo did a good enough job to save his own job. Now, if we go past the second round and we go into the NFC Championship, it's another optics thing because how did we win the divisional game? How did we win the wild card game? Did we win based on the fact that we were beating teams 13-12 like we did the Bills? We're winning in spite of our offensive coordinator as of right now. We really are. And we've realized that it's no fault to him, okay? Because let me put it this way. Nick Sirianni's a good coach. I think he is a good coach, but he is not a good game coordinator. He does not run a successful offense. He doesn't know. He's not a good play caller, okay? Dan Campbell, same thing, okay? Dan Campbell took over the offensive play calling for the Lions, and they shit the bed. You know, there's just certain coaches out there that are not good play callers. We've got John Harbaugh. We've got Mike Tomlin. They don't call plays, okay? Not to say they can't. I mean, John Harbaugh was a special teams coordinator, so I don't know his ability to call plays. But Mike Tomlin doesn't call plays. You know, So who's to say that he can call plays? There's just certain coaches that aren't successful calling plays. They're good motivators. They're good at developing plans as to, okay, these are the weaknesses of the other team, but I'm going to rely on you to call the plays and diagnose them and whatever. And I think that's what we're at right now.
Some interesting aspects of it and some of the things that you said. First of all, I don't think Nick will lose his job. And I think he's got it secured for a little bit. We saw Doug Peterson lose it, obviously a year after winning the Super Bowl, Nick being brought in. I think one of the biggest things is that we can take away from this year, all right? And we won off of talent. There was not a play, not a game, maybe a series or two that really made us feel that, okay, this offense is really good and it's clicking. And then there's too many 3-and-outs. I think they're the top team with the most 3-and-outs in the entire league. To see this time and time again is horrible. Now, looking back at the season, we could all agree that KP is just not the guy. Our offense, we should have took a little bit deeper look at that in the beginning of the year, as our offensive line should have either improved, been healthy 100% to play, or there should have been tweaks. We can't say that losing one guy on the offense has really made it a difference, given that, when Kelsey retired, we went to the Super Bowl the following year. So I think some of the stuff that you look at throughout this game and all of, basically throughout the entire season is that I don't want to say I hope the Eagles go all the way, right? We go back to the Super Bowl and we win, and this year is over. Because it has been one heartbreak after another, one gut-wrenching thing. I can't come on here and say, holy crap, the offense was really great. No, the defense has held things together. Now, they weren't really great in the beginning of the year, but Vic moved people around, and he finally got the pieces playing so well together that in the end, when it really counts, that they are playing lights out. That's what's keeping us into the game. And having our defense, having what we have as like an MVP DC is awesome for it. And I'm so glad that he doesn't want a head coaching job. Now, if anybody wants KP for a head coaching job, I'll be right there to give him a referral. I'll say that he was really great as a cheerleading coach on the side or coordinator, and he'll be right there with you. In fact, we'll help pack his bags.
Yeah, we can help with his resume. I'll help take him to a few workshops,
Somebody should post his shit on Indeed and see if anybody goes for it.
There'll be nobody that wants to browse that. My God.
So, Dan, let's talk about a little bit of the things that happened in the last day. There was some firing after Week 18, which is usually like, what do they call it?
Black Monday.
Yeah. So Black Monday is usually when they start firing a ton of people, from head coaches to offensive coordinators, including GMs. Okay, so we had the Falcons. They fired their head coach. The Browns fired theirs. Raiders, no surprise there. Pete Carroll was 1 year and done. He's like in his 70s. He should just retire and or maybe just come to a couple Seattle games or something and reminisce, whatever, on that one. The good one for you, Dan, is the Cardinals fired Gannon.
Yeah.
If you all remember Gannon, everybody was we were so glad when they wanted a head coach. We didn't understand why they wanted him as a head coach, because he was a horrible DC, but whatever. So as soon as that happened, Dan was applying for that position.
Yeah. Well, I'll bring him here to Philly. It won't be for a head coaching job. It'll be for something else. But I knew.
Yeah, the Commanders fired their OC. Oh, wow, they cleaned house with their DC as well. So they're like, all right, we're out. Dan Quinn seems to be safe. The one coach that Dan wanted to get fired and wasn't because he wanted him back, Dan?
Yeah, I wanted Shane Steichen. I wasn't mincing words about it. I think he's a good head coach, first off, and I think the Colts made a good decision because he did the best he could with that roster this year. He had some crap to work with. So I think, I wanted Shane Steichen. I really was hoping in the back of my mind he'd be fired because the Colts finished so badly, but good for him on a personal level. But Sucks for us. I think honestly,
Dan was a little greedy.
yeah,
He wanted him back. I mean, Shane was pretty good for us. It wasn't bad at all.
no, and I liked him, and I think that it would have been a situation where because he just lost his head coaching position, it would have been like 2 or 3 years at a minimum that he would probably get presented with another one. So it would have been, he would have been ROC for 2 or 3 years or whatever. But yeah, he was kept. I think an interesting name. Now, he might look for a head coaching position. I don't think he'll get it. But an interesting name is Cliff Kingsbury, because he was just literally maybe 2 hours ago fired from Washington. I think he did a good job with Jaden Daniels when he was healthy last year. I just think that Washington had nobody this year, so what the hell are you supposed to do? I mean, you're starting Marcus Mariota. We know how trashy he is. Josh Johnson. So I think that's a name to look at. I don't know. It all depends. If the Eagles go far into the playoffs, all the good coaches are going to be gone. So
Yep, they're going to go to the bottom of the barrel again.
yeah, Kevin Patullo. Yeah. Yep.
Promote within.
Yeah, promote within. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's an interesting name to look at. I don't think the Browns head coach, I like Kevin Stefanski. I just think the Browns are such a horribly run franchise. I think he'll get another head coaching position, to be honest with you, so I don't see that as a viable option. So I don't see anybody that's really great out there right now to hire, but I don't care. I'd hire Bozo the Clown as a goddamn OC. I don't give a shit. It's not like his schemes could be any worse, to be honest with you. So, but yeah,
Pack them all in a clown car and go on out there, man.
Yeah.
We're gonna
just run Madden page 1. Run a mesh concept. Just run that play 40 times, and we'll be done with it.
I wonder if KP is getting all his plays from Madden.
No, because we'd actually see creative concepts. Unless he doesn't realize that there's another page in the playbook in which he can run things out of a different formation.
Probably. I mean, if you look at maybe AJ will come up there and say, "Hey, man, you're running the same play as mine in Madden, but you're still only on page 1. Maybe flip the damn page."
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, you'll see a lot of coaches fired, and they were all to be expected. I'm kind of surprised about Washington, but the other ones, wasn't really shocked at, to be honest with you.
Well, Dan, let's do some predictions here. We have the playoffs; they're happening, and they're not too big of a surprise. I mean, AFC was kind of coming down to the wire with the Eagles not securing second seed. Kind of pushed a lot of things around. If somebody was going to go second, and then they're about to seventh. Really interesting is that I do think they should change the seeding a little bit in the rules based off of wins, but at the same time, I think each team deserves something within their division because they play them twice. If they were playing every team twice or something like that, then it might be a little bit. But let's look at this.
Let's look at that real quick. I would like to have that back and forth with you and see if people who listen, want to share their responses on that.
Okay, so here's the question that we're going to present. Dan, do you think the playoff seeding should change based off of their win-loss versus a division win-loss?
I do not. I think the seeding is appropriate, and I say that because I understand everybody's going to point to the NFC South and say there's no way in hell that the Panthers should get a home game. People in that division played a different record than you. So the strength of schedule we saw in the NFC East was significantly higher than other divisions. I mean, the Eagles, I don't know, they either had the first, second, or third strength of schedule that they played all year. So, let's just say an 8-9 record for the Eagles would have been a higher record should they play another one. So they deserve that home game based on those parameters. I think that there's a lot of discussion to be had. I mean, the NFC North it was a juggernaut. They had all those winning teams, but I think that if you win your division, you deserve a home game. And that's just my opinion based off of strength of schedule, based off of, who did they play? Who does that division have to match up against? All these different things. And I like the seeding the way it is. I really do, because there are a lot of times that you see a team with a lower record beat the team with a higher record, because that team with the higher record might have been playing shit opponents. You don't know. Let's say the Eagles, if the Eagles had the opportunity to be in the Panthers division, we would say that they would have probably won 13, 14 games. You can't base it off wins and losses, because of the fact that there's so many other variables that go into it. I think that if you win your division, you deserve at least a first-round home game, in my opinion.
If you're going to change the seeding, there either has to change the divisions, less of divisions, or no divisions. If you think about that, right, is that you play your division opponent twice. Well, you don't play anybody else twice. So there's no opportunity to go far or further your position within a division. So if you take it and you look at the Panthers, is that they've had to play their division twice throughout the year, which is not fair to the other teams. If you're ranking in a division or in your and you're trying to get a different seeding, is if you play them twice and everybody else once, and yet you didn't even win. If you don't count the division, then you don't get a chance to do it. I think you earn it when you play a division opponent, because those games are actually played harder than non-division opponents.
So are you saying that you change the seeding, or you keep the seeding the same?
I keep the seeding the same. The only way you change it is you get rid of divisions.
Which I don't think will ever happen.
Or lessen the divisions. And I agree. That is the only way you change it, because, all right, 32 teams, split it down, 16 teams. If you had no division for that, it was just conferences, 16 of them you could play everybody once, right? But then there would be a time you would have to play somebody twice going into it, or at least two people twice, if you think about it. Now, it's not fair, because you played them twice. Now you're playing a divisional thing. So I don't think any of that's going to change. I agree with the seeding. While I wish, if I was a team, okay, if you looked at it, what was the NFC North was stacked, right? There were 13-3 out there, or 13-4, or whatever it is. And then you had a 12 and whatever. And they were much higher than anybody else in the NFC conference. Yet you got a wild card round. Yeah, that sucks. But your opportunity, the way you're playing, is you're playing to beat your division and be the top one in your division, so that you can get a seeding.
Right. And I just feel that if you don't win your division, that you don't deserve a home game.
You earn it, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's a valid point, is that you earn it. So I don't think it's going to change. There's no other valid explanation for you to change it. I mean, just because a team does really well and has a higher win-loss, that you give them a better, maybe the playoff, the way it's laid out, might need to, versus a seeding. I'm not sure, but you don't. I think it's fine, to be honest with you. I don't think you need it. In some instances it looks unfair, but it's actually fair.
So let's use, to wrap this up, let's use the Rams versus the Panthers as an example, okay? I think I know your prediction, so I'm just going to say it. I think we all can agree the Rams are going to beat the Panthers, okay? Let's say that game, I understand some people say, well, the Rams deserve a home game, but I'm saying this. If you are that much more superior than your opponent, it shouldn't matter where you go, okay? If you are the better team, you should be able to win that game. So, Panthers, yeah, they got a home game, and many people might not like it, but the Rams should be able to go into Carolina and beat them regardless.
I agree. There's no argument for me. And in fact, since you're wrapping it up and we're doing our predictions for the playoffs, Rams versus Panthers, Dan, you have Rams. You just called it anyway, because I'm going with the Rams. All right. And don't worry, we're going to get to the Eagles versus the 49ers. I mean, hell, the 49ers got to come here and play in cold weather. And I think I did see jackets on people on the game, so out in the West Coast. But, hell, they're not used to that one. Dan, Packers versus the Bears.
So this one is, I know the Packers have limped in, but this one is difficult for me because I'm not sold on the Bears. And I honestly feel like the Packers will win this game. I am not sold on the Bears. I'm just not.
I am picking the Packers because I severely hate the Bears. So regardless of how well they would do. So the next one is very interesting, is the Bills versus the Jags. And Trevor Lawrence is on a hot streak. The team is on a hot streak. But, I mean, if you look at their, the game strengths that they had to play throughout all the year versus the Bills that could come into play. Dan, Bills versus the Jags.
I think the Bills are going to win. Again, maybe I haven't seen the Jags that much this season, so I can't say I'm not sold on.
I saw Trevor Lawrence sporting some grills, but that's about it.
Yeah. Well, that's a good indication of whether or not he'll win the game for sure.
A.K.A. Fabio.
Yeah.
So
no, I think that Josh Allen is a good player. I think he'll win him the game.
All right. Well, I'm there with you for the Bills. I think it's going to be one of those, might be a tight game, however it comes down to it, but I think that Josh Allen is going to push it far and win this one. Do I see the Bills going far in the playoffs? I wouldn't mind playing them again in the Super Bowl, but hey, you never know. All right, Chargers versus the Patriots. We both have the Patriots.
Yeah.
I mean, no doubt about it. I think they are playing phenomenal right now. Drake May is very poised in a lot of his stuff. I don't see the Chargers winning against the Patriots.
The only way that I think the Patriots lose is if Stephon Diggs is suspended for all the shit that he's doing in the other than that, but yeah.
Wasn't he released?
Stephon Diggs?
Oh, no, he was released, but they picked him up.
No, that was his brother. That was his brother.
Oh, sorry, wrong Diggs. Oops, my bad.
No, but all the legal things pending on that one, who knows, but I don't see that.
So he is close like his brother.
He's something, yeah.
Moving on. I'm going with the Patriots as well. Yeah, so the Texans versus the Steelers. Now, I'm going to go first here because I am actually picking the Steelers. Now, granted, the Texans, where they have the number one defense, right? They are phenomenal in that. For some reason, I can't tell you why. I have a feeling that Rodgers is going to get things together. DK's back, right? He had a 2-game suspension, so he's here in the playoffs. They actually did a decent job against the Ravens, only because the kicker missed at the end there. And how would you like to be him? I feel really bad for kickers in that instance, and I hope that it doesn't happen to Elliott at all. I am going with the Steelers. I think this might be their time. In fact, I'm going on a bold prediction here, okay? And you're going to kick me for this, is that I would love to see a PA Bowl.
You're high if you think that the Steelers are going to make it. There's no way in hell. But okay.
Well, okay. If you okay, wait,
I'd also like to see a goddamn unicorn hop across the street, but that shit ain't gonna happen.
Well, okay, so you're picking the Texans. Which,
I am picking the Texans. Yes.
You're picking the Texans for it. Okay, let's think about this. All right, if you go through it, the Bills versus the Jags. Bills knock off the Jags. Okay, and the Patriots knock off the Chargers. You have the Bills, the Chargers. You have the Steelers. Okay, you're going in there. Denver. So you have Denver, who's coming in off of their bye and everything. If you think about it, if the Bills can take care of Denver, right, that knocks them off. The Patriots, they go against the Steelers knock off the Patriots. Then you have, okay, no, I'm just playing out some scenarios.
I know what you're playing. You're playing with yourself is what you're doing.
It's potential. Well, either way is a good outcome the way it's going. Is that if you think about it, the Steelers could potentially now if they, listen. Rodgers doesn't do the tush push. He stands back there with his hands in his pockets, and he's like, "Good job. I'm not touching any guys' butts, and I'm too old." So, listen, it could be a scenario. Let me play out my fantasy for just a little bit, and if they do pass the first round of playoffs and the Steelers are still there, we can discuss this further.
Okay. Yes. The Steelers are definitely going to beat the Patriots. Absolutely.
Well, you know what? Maybe the Patriots drop. Who knows? But either way, the Steelers are still over in the wild card. What are they, the 7th seed sitting in it?
Who, the Steelers?
Yeah.
No, the Steelers are 4th seed because they won the division.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. They won the division because they played the Ravens last. So they're actually seeded pretty nicely, if you think about it.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of seeding, before we get to the Eagles versus the 49ers, when the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, what was it, in
18.
Well, no, let's just go. Well, they were number 1 seed in 2018 for that one. But in 2023, they were number 1 seed.
Okay.
In 20... Was it 2023 or 2020? Yeah, well, they went there anyway.
2022.
2022.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, but 2023 was there. Anyway, so they were number 1 seed in 2022. In last year, they were number 2 seed, and it played out in their favor. They were home, the entire thing. The way it's stacked, the rating, the first one dropped, and everybody was going. They all came to Philly. In fact, we were only guaranteed the 1 home game. Then, we got the 2nd, and then hey, the 3rd. They're the number 3 seed. So there is the potential, if shit falls from the sky and Dan sees his unicorn, that the Eagles could have entire home playoffs. Just saying. But there was a potential for them to win this last game against the Commanders, and maybe for some reason Nick's going to rest some people.
Well, okay, so I guess we'll get into it in further shows, but I will leave that conversation by saying this. I think I'm going to be the eternal optimist Eagles fan here. I think they actually do get 3 home games. I think the Rams are going to be their opponent in the NFC Championship. And I've thought that for pretty much all season. I know the Rams have lost a few here, but they haven't had Devontae Adams. They're a different team with Devontae Adams. And the Rams, I think I said it last show, were the one team I wanted no part of. I did not want to play them. Thank God that they won, because I think we might have been a one and done with them. So that I'll leave it at that.
If you think about that, wouldn't this be 3 times within a year that they would play the Rams? The way
and it's always been a good game. It's always been a good game.
Yep. Maybe it'll snow.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll get a run game going too and a new OC. All right, listen, we can stop fantasizing about some of the things that might potentially happen here for it, including the PA Bowl, which we'll discuss future one, because there was an opportunity way back, and I'm talking about almost 20 years ago, that but the Eagles shit the bed and the Steelers went to the Super Bowl. Moving on. So the Eagles versus the 49ers. Dan, I already know you got the Eagles, so I'm just going to put that down here on the sheet. But
I do.
All right, because if you didn't pick them, this conversation and an entire recording would be pretty much mute. What is your prediction on the score?
I actually think it's going to be 27-17. And I actually, for some ungodly reason, I feel extremely comfortable going into this game. Now, maybe I may need a reality check as to who the Eagles really are, but I just feel like I just don't think the Niners are so banged up. And I've said it for weeks watching the Niners. If you stop Christian McCaffrey, they have no one. Okay, Jawan Jennings, George Kittle, they're great receivers, but they base their entire offense around one guy. And they got destroyed last week because they stopped that one guy. So I think we have the defensive players to stop him. I do.
Yep. And if you watch Brock Purdy last week, he got so unsettled with the defense coming in there. He was not on his toes. His throws were off. Our defense will dominated. We have an excellent run defense, and then our secondary is phenomenal. Do I think Kittle's going to get a touchdown or Jawan Jennings. I think maybe there's a potentially for one of them. But other than that, there's not much that's going to happen. I'm not fearing the 49ers. I actually wasn't fearing the Packers either. I think it was a toss-up for me. I'm going with 24-10 with this. I think all season they have put up on an average for, 22 points in the offense. For me, 24 is kind of a stretch. 10 is going to be on there with that one touchdown. They're going to have a long kick here at the end or maybe in the first half, but that they're going to shut them out, and nothing else is going to happen.
Yeah, I completely agree. Vic Fangio, if anything, is really good at taking away a team's primary target. Most like Bill Belichick used to do. They take away that one person and say, you're going to have to beat us other ways. And I think with our defensive line and with them being able to guard Christian McCaffrey, I think that they're going to get to Purdy and they're going to get to him often. And like you said, they're going to make him on his toes.
Dan, I'm going to throw in a new prediction here. Do you feel, that regardless of the outcome, obviously the win, will they have another home game?
I do. I think that the Packers will beat
the Bears?
Yeah, we'll beat the Bears. And I think that, what would that have us? So that would be the Seahawks playing, who would they play? Yeah, the Seahawks would play the Pack. Oh, in my scenario, then the Eagles would play the Rams in the second round. Oh, shit. Okay. Well, either way, the Eagles are going to play the Rams, I think.
And it's going to be a home game. So,
yes,
and I'm predicting home as well. First of all, like you said, I think the Packers are going to take care of business against the Bears. It's a division game, and I think they've got a lot to kind of prove and go back to them for. Granted, I don't think the Packers have a lot. Jordan Love, hey, listen, I'm just hoping for the best, and we will be watching that closely. All right, everybody, I got to wrap things up, and before I do, Dan, take us away.
I think the final conclusion is that we should do a public service announcement here to please, Eagles front office, please. I don't care if the entire defense goes down with a mystery illness. I can't see Keely Ringo out there anymore. I can't see Jacorian Bennett out there anymore. Please, cut them. Cut me, Mick. Cut me. Because I can't see it. I can't see it anymore. The guy doesn't turn around. So I know I should be looking forward to the playoffs, and I am. But after watching Sunday's game, my heart hurts. And he needs to go. Please. Heal my breaking heart, please. Just cut him.
I'm gonna add on to that, Dan. And first of all, I'm gonna do a quick recap. Well, we understand from the game that just happened from the Eagles versus the Commanders, Washington Redskins thing, is that we don't really have any backups for defense. Wrapped our defensive players in bubble wrap, thank goodness. And regardless of the outcome of this season, KP needs to go. I feel bad for Jalen for having another OC, but we can't go on like this with all of our talent on the offense because you're going to have to start shedding them to pay for your defense. And that shit's going to hurt as it comes down the line. Everybody, this has been the Philly Fan Radio. I'm John Myer along with Dan Palmieri. Go Birds.